What's going on, guys? Casual here. Well, welcome back to Casual's Garage. In today's video, this week's video, we're going to be looking at the carburetor on our John Deere 530 here. This is a 58, I believe that's right. 58 or 59. I'll double check the serial number, put it on screen. It's a 58 or 59 John Deere 530. We're going to be pulling the carburetor off of it, tearing it down, and getting it cleaned up, ready for reassembly. We're not going to do the reassembly in this video, otherwise this video is going to be really, really long, and I don't want to bore you too much because I'm already probably going to bore you. So yeah, I'm gonna get the camera spun around, and we're gonna get the carburetor off of this tractor, and then we'll take it over to the bench, get it torn down, and then we'll run through how I tend to clean up carburetors. Alrighty, guys. Make sure the mic's still on. Alright, so first things first is going to be to get that oil out of the way so I have somewhere to rest my arm. We're going to get our choke lever out of the way. So I've already pulled the cotter pin, the cotter key that was on the back side right here. So normally our choke rod goes in just like that, and there's a cotter key back here. I just saved you guys the trouble of watching me fiddle with that cotter key. And so I'm going to pull that out, and I'm just going to slide our choke rod back and kind of out of the way as much as I can. And just to make getting to these bolts easier, I'm going to go ahead and pop the choke linkage off. We'll probably put it back on while it's on the bench, but getting the bolts broken loose will probably make it easier. So pull our choke linkage off. We'll set our choke spring over there with it so we don't lose it. Choke butterflies move good, which is always good to see. And we'll take a 9/16, if I can get it on here. We're gonna have to use a wrench. And we're back. Found it. I was sitting on it. That's a common theme you'll find out around here. I'm almost positive that these are not 5/8. There's just paint on them. If we can get some of the crud off of them. Well then, I got on that one. Oh, I'm gonna regret not having a set of stubbies for this, aren't I? I have a feeling I am. Get on that one. I cannot. I'm gonna find a short 9/16. Be right back. A short 9/16 and a universal if I need it. Now, don't tell me somebody put metric bolts in this. That'd be a good way to make somebody cuss. Put metric bolts in a standard tractor. That'd be a good way to make somebody unhappy. It was put together with an impact, that's for sure. Either that or the threads on these bolts need some significant work. Alright, well, I'm going to time lapse this, and I'll be back with you guys shortly. Alright, we're going to take the throttle linkage off. Or at least we're going to attempt to. We'll see if the cotter key is going to move. Hey, what do you know? It actually came off. I fully expected that cotter key to be stuck. However, the linkage is painted in solid. Alright, let me go get a hammer. Okay, there we go. So, throttle rod is off. We'll throw it over there out of the way for the moment. And that opens up our access to this last bolt. To take our fuel line loose. Okay. I'll just let that drop right there. Alrighty, all our bolts are off, fuel line's off, throttle and choke linkages are off. Any luck, couple of taps. There we go. And our carburetor's off. I will see you guys at the bench. I'm going to take my hat off. Let's see if I can give you guys some light. Maybe back there. I'm afraid that's going to wash the video out. How about over there? For right now. Alright, so I'm on an absorbent mat. First things first, we're gonna take the bowl loose. And we're going to find out real fast and in a hurry like. Well, I say that. We might not be. There we go, if our needle's stuck. Just let that gas run out on the absorbent mat. There we go. The bowl doesn't look too bad, other than the outside. The outside looks terrible, but the inside doesn't look bad. Turn you upside down. Ooh, I'm gonna have to drive that float pin out. That's not good. This has been sealed with orange RTV before. That is now my new suspicion. Is there orange RTV under the needle? Because that is entirely possible too. Alright, so first things first. Ooh, load needle is stuck. Get a bigger screwdriver and see if we can get it out in a minute. Okay, this is going to be a case of do as I say, not as I do, because don't do what I'm about to do, but I don't really want to get up and get a hammer. Okay. There we go. One float pin. One float with no needle hanger. So that's good to know. This needle doesn't have a hanger anyway. Needle wasn't stuck. I don't see anything against the seat, but we're going to put a new needle and seat in it anyway. It's a steel tip needle. There's nothing to pull it down though, so if it was only minorly stuck, that could potentially cause that same issue. Alright, so I guess we'll go for low-hanging fruit next. So we'll tighten half, 1, half. Alright, so 1.5 turns out on, let's see, you go in like that. So 1.5 turns in on the throttle side. And there's half. 1, half, 2, half, 3. I wonder what was rich on that cylinder. Because it's 3 turns in on the other side. Okay, that's fun to know. Somebody's played with this thing before is part of the problem. I don't think it was us. That needle's been turned in hard against its seat. So who's that one? I mean, there is a, I don't know if you guys can see that. Maybe if I'm back here in the light, there is a significant ridge in those needles. Alright. Like I said, we'll go low-hanging fruit first. Take the fuel elbow out. There's that. Are you 7/8? You are. Okay, I don't remember putting this back in there that tight when I put the filter back in, or when I took the filter out. Here's the top banjo nut. This is rounded off. So, Cobra's to the rescue. Not a problem. That passage is completely plugged with sand. I did mention this tractor came from Sand Country, didn't I? Because if I didn't, yeah, this tractor came from Sand Country. And there's sand in everything. Just like the one behind me. It came from Sand Country too. Take our butterflies out. Okay, on these butterflies, on the throttle butterflies, the 15 goes towards the top and they're angled like this. It's important notes. I'll have to heat these. Somebody's tried to take this carburetor apart before and couldn't get it apart. Yep. Okay. There's that sandy junk that just fell out of that plug in my hand. The float's got sand on it. Okay, and the choke butterflies in this orientation, the T's go to the top and they sit like this. It's another important note. I fought that forever on the last one of these I did because I couldn't remember which way the choke butterflies went. And I kept trying to put them in the wrong direction. Well, that's unfortunate. All right, well, we'll get him out of there in a second. Drop a screwdriver. And there went that butterfly too. Cool. All right, so we'll pull our choke shaft out. So, actually, I'll show you guys. So, on this carburetor, the choke shaft sits maybe you can see that. So the choke shaft sits with the flat side facing the camera as it sits right now. And this is the intake side, the air intake side. Feel like gasket off once. Want to come off easy. And so if you've never taken a carburetor apart before, to get the choke shaft out, throttle shaft too. But to get the choke shaft out of pretty much any carburetor, what you'll do is you'll unscrew the screws that hold the butterflies on, and then slide the butterflies out. In my case, they slid off the edge of the shaft and slid down the barrels, which is fine. They'll come out in just a second. And then the choke shaft just slides right out the side, just like so. This thing has been running rich for a long time because everything is black. Black, black, black. Okay. Well, said butterflies would come out. Here we go. Got hold of one of them. So there's one of the choke butterflies. And there's the other one. And so now you can see our choke shaft is out of the way. Now, our throttle shaft, I don't think I'm going to be able to get loose. Yeah, somebody's tried to take this carburetor apart before and wasn't able to. Yeah. Screws are just trying to twist on me, which I'm not real surprised about. Okay. So we'll come back to our throttle shaft in a little bit. Everything that I can't get out right now, basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this sit for probably overnight, at least several hours. And then I'm going to go over there on the other side of the tractor and put, I believe it's a number 0 welding tip on my oxy-fuel torch. And we're going to take the carburetor over there and we're going to heat all of this stuff up. So needle seat, load needle, these plugs, throttle shaft, all of this stuff that doesn't want to move right now, we're going to heat it all up and then let it cool down completely. I'm amazed that plug moved. You never know on these carburetors what's actually going to move and what won't. Sometimes you'll get lucky and things will come right out. Other times, you get the throttle shaft that won't move. We'll see if our emulsion tubes are going to move, because I'm willing to bet they aren't. I had to have a bigger screwdriver. Too big. We'll see. Nope, I'm just going to go down in there. I can bridge that gap. Here it comes. So if you're not sure what I'm taking out right now, it's what's called either the emulsion tube or I guess you could call it a main jet tube. John Deere calls them the emulsion tube. On the single barrel DLTXs, these you have to take and pull them out because they're not threaded. On the double barrels like these, they're threaded in the holes, and so they'll come right out usually. These are usually less stuff than the plugs that hold them in are, or that hold them down are. But this is your jet tube. Here's your fuel jets. There is no orientation to this tube other than it just goes in the hole and you tighten it down. There's a little gasket at the bottom to keep it from leaking fuel up into the throat. But other than that, basically when you put these back together, if you don't get a comprehensive kit, which I have, you'll want to make sure these little holes are cleaned out. And that's really all you have to do to these other than clean them up. And like I said, I'm going to send all the parts for this carburetor through the ultrasonic cleaner once we get it disassembled. There we go. The second one came loose. Excuse the air compressor. It'll turn off in a second. Emulsion tubes don't look bad, other than they're pretty chewed up on the ends where they've been in and out several times. But other than that, they don't look too bad. So all of this assembly right here is your main fuel circuit. If I remember correctly. And so these are basically your main fuel jets. And there's two little jets right here. There's some air passages behind that have steel ball bearings in them. So what we'll do is once we get all of the plugs out that we can, get all the needles out and everything, we'll shoot carburetor cleaner through them after we send the carb body itself through the ultrasonic cleaner. The primary goal here is making sure there's no rust in any of the passages. As long as they'll pass carburetor cleaner, they'll pass fuel. On a single barrel DLTX, I would go through every single passage because you can take all those plugs out because they're all threaded plugs. On these carburetors, like I said, they're steel ball bearings that are driven in and peened into these holes. And they're a lot more of a pain in the butt to get out. You can get them out. You can drill up into the edge right here with a very small drill bit and then take a roll pin punch and punch them out, put them back in, and then you can JB weld over that, but I don't want to do that if I can help it. So we've got some threaded plugs here that I'm willing to bet are not going to move. I do not want to destroy the slots on them. I can't even get that screwdriver in them. I have to have a really fine screwdriver to get those out. Yeah, but judging by the way the posts look, they're not going to move. Our bowl gaskets right here, or bowl nut gaskets right here. There's one on either side of the bowl. We'll see if our seat will move. I'm kind of thinking it won't move either, but we'll try it. The last one of these I did, I had to heat the seat up to get it out. This is a gasket scraper, by the way. Yeah, it's not going to move. So that's going to have to get heated up. So that needle's going to have to get heated up. The seat for the needle valve is going to have to get heated up. These two plugs are going to have to get heated up. Throttle shaft's going to have to get heated up to get it apart. And then we'll check our throttle bushings. At the moment, they feel good. So I'm thinking we'll be able to get away without doing throttle bushings, which is always good. There's the two little jets here for your idle circuit that I also think are not going to move. Well, they're going to make me a liar. Or at least one of them is. That's alright. I don't mind being made a liar. Not by rusty things, anyway. Alright, so that got our idle needles out. The main fuel system picks up fuel from right here inside this bridge, and this is your metering needle here, and then it goes up through the main tubes. These two holes that had the little jets in them that I just took out, those are part of the idle circuit, and they feed, if I remember correctly, feed through kind of around and up, and then come out in the barrel of the carburetor up here. There's a handful of soft plugs in this carburetor. Once I get all the stuff out, we'll make a decision on whether or not, once I get the throttle shaft out and get the rest of the stuff heated up, I'll make a decision whether or not I'm going to drive the soft plugs out. A lot of times on the 2 barrels, I don't have to. You can usually get them pretty clean, especially with an ultrasonic. But like I said, I'm going to let this carburetor sit for several hours, probably overnight, and let it air out and get rid of a lot of the fumes before I introduce heat anywhere near it. Alright guys, so same task, different day. We're going to continue disassembling the carburetor. So like I mentioned earlier in the video, excuse the banging on the tanks of that oxygen. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, this carburetor is going to require some heat. It's a crapshoot whether or not you need heat on these carburetors a lot of times. But the things we need to get out are the needle seat, this needle, which I have a new needle. Need to grab a pick and take that bowl gasket out right quick. And then the throttle butterflies, so I can get the throttle shaft out. And then there's also 2 brass soft plugs that are threaded on each of there's one on each of these posts. So we're going to get all those out, and what I'm going to do is I've got a real fine welding tip on my oxy-fuel torch. It's either number 0, number 1. It's a number 1. So number 1 torch tip. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to light it, and I'm going to heat around here for the needle, around the seat as much as I can, heat the throttle shaft up, and then I'm going to walk away, go do something else. Here's a seat I pulled out of another carburetor. Done this method several times. I'm going to heat this stuff up, and then I'm just going to walk away and let it cool completely. Because these are brass. If you let the carburetor body cool completely, especially while it's cool out here, the differential shrinkage in the carburetor body and the brass will actually break those loose, usually fairly quickly. So I'm going to grab a pick, take this out, and then I'm going to heat these up, and then I'm just going to completely walk away. So you'll see a jump cut in here when I walk away, but I'm gonna just time lapse this whole thing until we get these out and I get all of the carburetor parts. When I get the throttle shaft out, I'm just going to take the 4 screws out of the butterflies, take the butterflies out, throttle shaft slides out the side. That's all I'm going to do with it. I'm going to take all the parts over to the other bench, put them in the ultrasonic, and I'm going to let that run for an hour or 2, and then we'll be back with you. So you just watch the time lapse. As you can see, the carburetor's off. We've got it cleaned up and it's ready to be reassembled. So what you guys just saw in that time lapse was starting with, as I mentioned, heating up those few pieces, the needle seat and the soft plugs and the main jet needle, heating those up, letting them cool down, and then getting those out of the carburetor. And then we went several trips through the ultrasonic cleaner with the carburetor body and then all the parts. To clean carburetors, typically I use Simple Green Pro HD in water in the ultrasonic, and I just let it heat up to about 50 degrees Celsius, which is like 120, 130 degrees, something like that, Fahrenheit, somewhere around in there. I don't know. I don't do the conversions very well. But anyway, that's what I run in my ultrasonic. You saw me at one point drain some evaporust out. I did end up sending the carburetor body through evaporust. The reason I did that was there was a lot of kind of loose, flaky rust, and you could see on the bridge of the carburetor that there was a bunch of it was surface rust, but it wasn't going to hurt it to be cleaned up. So I do that on carburetors on occasion as well. I'll heat up the evaporust in the ultrasonic, and then I'll run parts through for an hour through the evaporust. That usually cleans them up real well. And then what you saw after that was I drained the evaporust out and I put my cleaning solution back in, which again is just the Simple Green Pro HD in water, and put the carburetor body back in it, and basically just to flush out anything that the Simple Green may not have dissolved completely, or sorry, not Simple Green, but the evaporust may not have dissolved completely, just to make sure that we got all that junk out of there. So, so that got it clean, and then I took it over to the sink, washed off the cleaner, scrubbed off any loose paint because that Simple Green does eat paint. So the carburetor will need repainted at some point. We did learn through the course of this cleanup that this tractor actually has the wrong carburetor on it. It's got a DLTX 86 on it. It's supposed to have a DLTX 99. So that carburetor actually came off of a 50, which is fun to know. It shouldn't cause us any problems other than possibly our kit's going to be maybe missing a couple of pieces that are specific to an 86 over a 99, throttle shaft seals, that kind of thing. So I'll double check on that. I may have to order another kit. But otherwise, we're pretty well ready to go back together. That'll be next week's video, getting the carburetor put back together, getting put back on the tractor, and then we'll get it out and run it around, get it good and warm, and we'll get it adjusted. The other thing you saw me do after that time lapse was set the carburetor on the body, or the carburetor body on the bench, sorry, and coat the bare surfaces in WD-40. And the reason I did that was just to prevent flash rusting. We sent it through evaporust, we got all the rust off of it, let's prevent it from rusting again. So nothing super special there, just WD-40, give it a light coating, wipe off the excess, and it's good to go. So like I said, next week's video we'll pick up rebuilding the carburetor, putting it back together, get it put back in the tractor, and then we'll get it out running around and warm it up and get the carburetor adjusted. So thank you guys for watching. I hope this was entertaining, possibly educational. I tried anyway. And we'll see you guys next week with another video.